So we're speaking through this very loud microphones because there's so many of you, but also because we're documenting the Q&A because this is a special opportunity for us, and we want to make sure that the conversation is preserved. So I'm going to ask one question, and then I'm really going to turn this over and let this be a conversation for you all. And Lucinda, first, thank you for coming and bringing the company here. This is their second time in Abu Dhabi. They were here as part of the opening of the Louvre, doing different work, both on stage under the dome and in the galleries. But it was a very, very different piece than what you just got a chance to see. And as I was watching it, I know this version of the piece has been touring for 10 years, and the dancers have danced it a lot. It's really in their bodies. The piece is really at the sort of the end of this version. So I'm curious, in a dress rehearsal like this, since part of the conversation is about process, as you're bringing it to so many different theaters, each one with its own idiosyncrasies, different dimensions, different feel, what are you looking for and what are you looking at during the dress rehearsal, and how might what you see today change what will be on stage tomorrow and Thursday night?
Actually, the changes are going to be very minor. What concerns me most in the dress rehearsal is my chance to work with Trisha, our wonderful technical staff, to balance the film and the dancers. Sometimes you see just the dancers, and sometimes you see just the film. But the moments when you see the dancers in the film is a very delicate balance to make both equally balanced, and those final adjustments are mostly what I'm focusing on at this particular point in the process.
And the film is by Sol LeWitt, the visual artist, and the music is by Philip Glass. Are there adjustments that you're making on the audio side, and does that change so much venue to venue, or is that something that stays fairly constant?
Well, the Sol LeWitt film, every theater is slightly different. Finding the right lens, filling the space with, because the film is a rectangular format, and finding the best way to fill the space, and maybe there'll be some minor adjustments on the film. But the Philip Glass music, I think that the sound system here is excellent, and we'll have no adjustments there.
Great. I was not just fishing for compliments for us, but we'll take it. Thanks. I'm going to actually just really open it up right to all of you right away, and just see if you've got any questions about the process, about seeing the dress rehearsal, or about the piece overall, and just also curious just to get some feedback from folks.
Hello. I'd like to ask, how did you manage to get the footage, and how did you project it? Also, how long did it take you to sync all the movements on a new stage?
The actual rehearsal process for this piece was approximately 8 weeks, back in 1979. When I had the dancers. I, of course, worked by myself in preparation for the dancers coming. The original film, a 35 millimeter black and white film, was shot in a studio because of all the different angles. It had to be a special film studio for the overhead angles and all of the different angles that you see. And that was done with Sol LeWitt coming to my studio and preparing which material he felt should be on the film in order to design exactly how he would edit it later.
Hey, what inspired you to use such simplistic and repetitive movements to create such a big piece out of that?
The movement material, you mean?
Yeah.
The music.
The music?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that people ask that question a lot, and it's really an intuitive process completely, just listening to the music and improvising myself in the studio until I find the material that I feel belongs there. And then the technical process of fitting that material to the music of Philip Glass with the dancers. And that's a very technical aspect of the work. So there are two sides of it.
What is the concept of the whole choreography altogether?
It's completely abstract, as you know. I mean, I don't have to tell you that. That's quite obvious. There's no narrative. It's really, the concept is conceptual in terms of combining in a very traditional way a composer, a designer, and a choreographer for the stage. And I think one of the most interesting things in terms of Sol LeWitt's participation was his reluctance to just use a visual element that we would dance in front of. And we came to the conclusion that for his decor, the decor should be the dancers. And that's why the film exists. And that has made a very exciting part and a very exciting dimension of this whole piece, which was not there originally, because originally you had the same dancers in the film as on the stage. So in a way, the concept is to move the audience around the piece in different ways, from different angles, through the use of the film, and to really explore the choreography in different ways through the use of the film.
How did the choreography change once the projections were added? Because after seeing Ways of Seeing, what attracted me the most was the different planes, how much depth perception changed for me watching it visually. And I wondered, since the projection happened after the original choreography, how did that shift?
Well, the filming took place at the same time in 1979 with an original group of dancers at that time. And there have been several revivals. 1990 was the first revival, when Sol LeWitt himself came to the revival and said, well, you're the only one left, because the others had moved on. And we talked about the fact that, you know, there should be or could be a new film made with his storyboard, which is exactly perfect. And later in 2000, one of the last revivals with the 35mm film, the film becomes very fragile, and there's a limit to how many times you can make negatives off of something like this. So this last project has been a digital transfer of the film, which is different because you have 24 frames in a 35mm film and just slightly different frames per second in the digital work. But the dancers of today, I didn't, the dancers of the, you know, from working with me 10 years ago, I didn't want them to look at the film. I didn't want them to look at the stylistic changes of the dancers from 40 years ago. I just wanted them to learn the choreography. And as you can see, it matches exactly, even though there's stylistic changes in the upper body, for example, between the group from 40 years ago and the group now.
Hello. I was wondering how the film changes position, because sometimes the film is above the dancers, and other times it is below the dancers, and other times it is much larger and then much smaller, and then there's 4 frames. And I was wondering why that happened, and if it was always like this, or if these things have changed as choreographers have changed and as the dancers have changed.
Well, the film is a constant. It was made, and the motion of the camera and the camera angles and the going in and the going out and all of the timing, the editing of over 100 different parts of the puzzle of the film were decided by Sol LeWitt. This is his work, and I admire it very much from many points of view. Every time I see it, to see how much work has gone into working with the choreography and designing a piece that really, for me, opens up the choreography in different ways and gives you different windows into the work in different ways. And I love the changing images of that, but that was actually his decision to work in the way he did, with shifting the images as much as he did and whenever he did during the piece.
Thank you very much, first of all. My question is, I mean, it must feel incredible to see your work of art, I mean, so many times over the course of your life. And I was wondering if you could spend some time talking about that. How does it feel to see your work come to life in so many different venues, with so many different artists, with so many different dancers?
Well, it's a very precious thing, because this work has been filmed, so then you're seeing a film of the film, and that's okay. But this is the way I want people to see it. So this is a very precious thing for me, that we have this opportunity to really tour this piece for 10 years. And I always want to be there. I'm not happy to miss one performance, and I normally never miss any performances, because I want to be there for the dancers. It's a very challenging piece, very demanding, for their attention, for their stamina. And this particular group has been with me for 10 years, I think. Bill mentioned that. And I'm very grateful to them for bringing so much to the piece, actually, in terms of the work that they've done, which I think is really extraordinary. But I feel fine.
I think we have time for one more.
Anybody else? Anybody have some final questions?
If you do have any final questions, there's going to be a talk with Lucinda, and actually in the art gallery this evening at 7 o'clock in the amazing gallery show Ways of Seeing with the NYU gallery director, Maya Allison. But we do have time for one more.
I was wondering, do you have a message in mind that you want to send to the audience, or do you want everyone to have their own message from this piece?
I want them to have their own message, yes. No, there's no agenda whatsoever of any kind. The piece just is what it is.
And I think after we kind of finish this formal part, I'd be curious just to hear from some of you what some of the messages and what some of the feelings were that you all took away from it. I'm also just curious before we go, how many people recognize now that that was Lucinda who did that stunning solo on stage in the middle? And what a gift it is for us to be able to time travel between Lucinda and her company from 1979 to be in this dialogue across a almost 40-year period with this great contemporary company that's dancing in the room with you right now. And so I want to thank you for this gift. I hope that some of you might explore the opportunity to see it again, maybe from a different point of view. This is one of those pieces, a lot of it is about the shifting points of view, and every seat in the house is different. So we thank you for coming to this. We hope to see you back. We have lots of workshops and master classes and open rehearsals, as well as the performances, and that's a big part of the work that we do here at the Art Center. And I want to thank you for bringing your students here, and I thank you all for taking some time out to spend with us, and we'll see you soon.
And thank you for having us.